All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our virtual town hall meeting. We're with Senator Fred Akshar, Binghamton Mayor Rich David, Broome County Legislature Chair Dan Reynolds, Broome County Legislator Cindy O'Brien, and other locals. If you'd like to ask a question, please look at the bottom of your screen. There's a button that says Reactions. Click on that and just raise your hand. Just click on the button that says raise hand, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Akshar.
Emmanuel, thank you very much. I am excited to be on with everyone this evening. We have a great deal of participation, which always makes me happy. There are more than 90 people on the line, or more than 85 people on the line, so I'm excited about that. As Emmanuel said, if you wish to ask a question, just use the raised hand button. Tonight really is about you and the issues or the concerns that you have. This is what I am told is our 45th town hall meeting since being elected. We think that this is very, very important to do, have these town hall events. We've never restricted access to them. We've always pledged to be open, accessible, and approachable to the folks that I represent. So this is one of the ways that we can do that. Of course, we're doing it virtually because of COVID. It's the responsible thing to do, but I really am looking forward to getting back to seeing all of you in person, whether it be at events like this or out into the community. So I am very pleased this evening to be joined by Chairman of the Legislature, Dan Reynolds, and Mayor of the City of Binghamton, Rich David, as well as the Deputy Mayor, Jared Cram, and County Legislator Cindy O'Brien. We have discussed these issues of town halls and being approachable and accessible to the people, and we are all in agreement that this is the way to do that. So what I thought we'd do very quickly is I'm going to introduce Dan and County the Chairman Reynolds, and then Mayor David. They're going to talk for a little bit about issues that they're dealing with at the county and the city level, and then I'm going to come back to address a few issues that I think are of importance and critical right now because we're currently dealing with them. So with that, allow me to introduce County Legislative Chairman Dan Reynolds.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending here as well. We've done these for the second year now, and we've had great success with people, and we find it's a good way to be able to communicate with residents, certainly given the constraints that we have in as safe a manner as possible. Senator mentioned as well that Legislator Cindy O'Brien is here as well, and we will have other legislators here with us as well. Some of them will be dropping in and out, so I didn't want to think that wasn't going to be part of it as well. They are going to be here. They certainly want to hear about it. Our county is facing challenges just like many of the municipalities. We're working our way through as many of those challenges as we can. There's going to be issues I'm sure that we're going to hit on tonight, including some of the funding issues for the county and for other municipalities as well, and some of the work that's being done on behalf, certainly advocating by our senator and also our mayor that's of the city of Binghamton, Rich David, who's here tonight as well. And it's just there's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes, and we're all facing similar challenges. The county's in a spot where we were forced to borrow $30 million because of being shorted by the state, and I can't thank the senator enough for advocating on our behalf, and certainly for the mayor as well for advocating for all mayors across the state and certainly all municipalities. I know it's been a challenge that we're all looking forward to having it put behind us. So, but with that said, if I could, Senator, I'll turn it over to the mayor of the city of Binghamton, Rich David.
Great, thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Senator. Thanks very much, Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate it. It's been a long year for all of us, and I really look forward to participating in this discussion. A few of the points that I wanted to bring up that I thought might be of interest to you, regardless of where you live, inside or outside of the city, are some of the financial points that Chairman Reynolds referenced. In addition to being mayor of the city, I'm currently the president of the New York Conference of Mayors. So I'm in Albany a lot, working directly with Senator Akshar, advocating on your behalf on a series of financial issues. And some of the things that have come up that you may or may not be aware of is that the governor has proposed cutting state aid to municipalities. So whether you live in a village, you live in a town, you live in the city of Binghamton, for the year 2020, it's about 5%. And for the year 2021, it ranges from 2.5% to 20%. If you live in a village, it's 20% across the board. If you live in a town or the city, it ranges anywhere from 2.5%, 5, 10, 15%. Well, that's a lot of money. So let me just put that in perspective. 5% for the city of Binghamton is $462,000. Another 2.5% for the year 2021 is half that, $231,000. And it varies depending on where you live. We're fighting for every penny of that money. And Senator Akshar has really been taking the lead in this area, supporting all of the cities, the towns, the village, the county, and making sure that the municipalities get their fair share of aid. And the reason that is important is because a big portion of that money goes to public safety. So that's your police officers, your firefighters, your paramedics, the individuals that collect your garbage and sanitation. So in the middle of an international pandemic, a health crisis, these are not the times to be cutting those significant sources of funding. And I really appreciate Senator Akshar's leadership in making sure that our voices are heard loud and clear at the state level. And the state has indicated that if and when they get their fair share of federal money, they will recoup that or give back that money to the municipalities. The other point I just briefly wanted to mention is that we're also fighting at the federal level to make sure that municipalities get their fair of the federal stimulus money, which has been left out of every single previous package that's being proposed. It's important that you know that right now there is money included in the bill, but in addition to making sure that there's money in the bill, we want to make sure there's no population caps, because they did that in the past. In the first federal bill, it was only cities with a 500,000 population or over that got money. So in New York State, that's only New York City, and that's not good enough. So every municipality, regardless of how many residents, needs to be included. So we're fighting for a population cap, and we're fighting to make sure that our aid isn't offset by a reduction in state aid. So if we get federal money, it means that our state aid can't be reduced at the same time. So just a few things for you to know that we are dealing with the federal government. We're dealing with Senator Schumer, Gillibrand, our congressional delegations, heavily involved in the New York Conference of Mayors. And it's great to have a partner in Senator Akshar who understands the importance of what this means for municipalities and the services we provide, and is certainly not afraid to make his voice heard. So thank you for that leadership, Senator Akshar.
Mayor, thank you. Let me acknowledge also County Clerk Joe Mahalko, who's joined us. Joe, thank you kindly for joining us this evening. I also just want to take a moment and acknowledge the presence of a dear friend of mine, Bishop Mario Williams is with us. Bishop, thank you so much for being with us. Jessica and I, my wife, had the honor of being with the bishop and his wife and their congregation yesterday at River of Life Ministry, and we spent some time yesterday. Also would acknowledge that the bishop is doing a great deal of work in the area of police reform, both for the city of Binghamton and the county of Broome. He's serving on both of those commissions. So Bishop is someone that I trust with my children's life and the forward direction of this community. So Bishop, just want to acknowledge your presence on the line this evening, and thank you publicly for all that you're doing for this community. I want to just address a couple of things. And again, remember, this evening is about all of you that are on the line. So if you'd be so kind, if you have a question of me or of the chairman or the mayor, just hit the participant button and then go over to the raise hand button, and we'll call on you. I want to address the budget, of course, first and foremost. So this year, as described by the executive, the deficit for the state of New York is about $15 billion. I would remind all of you that the deficit pre-pandemic was about $6 billion. So the entirety of that deficit is not COVID related. I would respectfully offer to everyone on this line that the deficit pre-pandemic was because of fiscal mismanagement at the state level. All of us have to manage our money in our own respective homes. And again, when you have deficits like we are currently carrying, it's because we're not managing our money appropriately. So the governor's been clear that he is seeking $15 billion, excuse me, upwards of $25 billion from the federal government. And that, of course, is much more money than what is needed. I don't see the governor getting that amount of money directly from the federal government. What President Biden is talking about in his $1.9 trillion plan, New York would get roughly $12.7 billion. And local governments, as the chairman and the mayor said, would get about $10 billion. Now, I think that's the responsible thing to do. The last thing I want to see happen is for all of that money, the 22.7 billion or thereabouts, go to the state of New York, and then the state to pass that money down to local government, right? So, because what happens historically, and again, the chairman and the mayor can tell you, if the state of New York owes them $1, by the time it gets here, it's probably 50 cents or less than that in some instances. So my advocacy with our federal partners in Congress and the United States Senate is that whatever the number is, wherever they land in terms of help, that the state aid or the local aid goes directly to the mayor, goes directly to the chairman and the county executives throughout the state, because to do anything else, I think, creates issues. So in the midst of this deficit, one other thing that I think is critically important to everybody on the line, the governor has proposed suspending the middle class tax cut. And that is a huge problem for me. And I tell you why, because the governor has extended in the same proposal it's called the film tax credit. This costs the taxpayers about $420 million. And this is where we give tax breaks to the Hollywood elite. If they wanted to come and film a movie or some type of show in the state of New York, we would give them tax credits. So at a time when we're talking about suspending the middle class tax cut, that would cost us about $400 million this year, and would cost north of $2 billion in the out years. I certainly don't think that we should be giving a break to Hollywood movie producers at a time when we're talking about, I'm calling it raising taxes on the middle class, because when you suspend something, we're set to pay less money in taxes this year because of the middle class tax cut. When we suspend that, we'll be paying more. So that, I think, is one thing that we are fighting very hard on to get the governor to suspend the film tax credit and still enact this year's middle class tax cut. Transportation funding continues to be problematic. We had a good call this afternoon with our highway department superintendents, who are, of course, as the mayor said, critically concerned about a cut in funding, whether it be Pave New York money or Bridge New York money, extreme weather, winter recovery money. All of those numbers have been slashed pretty significantly. What we have proposed, and is a bipartisan effort in the state legislature, is to, depending on what the federal government does, if we get $6 billion or less, we would fund those very important infrastructure projects by way of CHIPS money, bridge money, pave money, and extreme winter recovery monies at a certain dollar amount. If we got over the number of 6, then we would increase that funding, because we are at the state level, we are funding the DOT at about 70% less than what we are funding the MTA at, right? So all of you, I'm sure, have seen many articles in the papers, whatever it is that you read. The MTA is grossly mismanaged, specifically fiscally. There are billions and billions of dollars in the hole because nobody can manage their monies the appropriate way. So, before we dump 70% more money into the MTA, we're really striving for what we call parity, ensuring that whatever we're funding the MTA at, we're also funding the DOT at, and that has a direct impact, of course, on us and our roads and bridges here. I'm sure many of you are paying attention to the news and what's going on in terms of the nursing home issue and what has plagued this executive. I'm sure many of you have seen the Attorney General's report. It is really a pretty scathing report and a rebuke against the governor on the way that he and his staff have handled the nursing home issue. There is a lot of conversations happening in Albany. You've probably heard this, people calling for the impeachment of the governor. I, for one, believe in due process. I think it's a very good sign that both the FBI and the Department of Justice have acknowledged the fact that they are looking into the issue. And before I think we go down this path of impeachment, I think we should follow the facts and allow an independent outside group to be able to do that. I'm happy that this particular issue is not in the Southern District of New York. It's in the Eastern District of New York, meaning, and I raise that because Melissa DeRosa, the secretary to the governor, her mother-in-law happens to be the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. I, for one, believe that that is a huge conflict of interest, and your mother-in-law should not be investigating, your boss and the activities of the administration. So that continues to happen. We have, when I say we, I mean our conference, the Republicans in the state Senate and in the Assembly, both of us find ourselves in the minority currently. We have attempted to remove the governor's executive powers on 14 separate occasions since we've been back in January. We've been unsuccessful in doing that. Today was a little bit different. Today we had an opportunity to offer a hostile amendment on the floor of the state Senate, but we did something a little bit different today. We took a bill that is sponsored by Senator Biaggi. She's a Democrat from New York City, and she has authored a bill that would immediately strip the governor of those executive and emergency powers. We introduced that bill today as a hostile amendment on the floor, and there were only 20 yes votes. The Republicans in the state Senate, all of the Democrats voted against her bill. She even voted against her own bill to remove the governor's executive powers. So there is certainly some politics being played here. I think that what we saw today was really the height of hypocrisy. How do you introduce a piece of legislation to remove the governor's executive powers, and then when you have an opportunity to vote on it, you vote no? I'm not entirely sure how that happens, but nonetheless, we really believe collectively that, and there's a growing issue. This is a growing issue, right? Many weeks ago, it was only 20 Republicans that thought we should remove the governor's executive powers. Now, there are an additional 14 members of the Democratic Conference that also believe we should remove the governor's executive powers. So as I said to the staff a couple of days ago in the conversation that we had in Albany, if you do the math, that's 34 members. That's a majority of the state Senate, bipartisan majority, right? Republicans and Democrats alike, who represent over 11 million people. So more than half of the people of the state. So, I really believe that Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the majority leader, owes it to not only the people in her conference, but the people of the state of New York to bring the bill to the floor and allow us to vote on it. Either vote yes or vote no. But our constituents, my constituents here in this district and the constituency throughout the state, deserve to have a representative government. And they're currently not getting that as we are currently structured with the governor having all of his executive powers. Emmanuel, one thing I failed to mention was we're going to ask 2 poll questions of everybody this evening. Emmanuel, can you just explain maybe the first one and then put it up, and then we'll start taking some questions if that's okay.
Sure. On your screen, a poll question should have just come up about removing the governor's emergency executive powers, and you should be able to vote on it right now. This is the first time we've tried one of these polls, so forgive us if it's not going completely smoothly, but I just launched it, and so you should have it in front of you. If not, looked at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that says polls, and try hitting that button and you should have the question come up, and please feel free to participate.
I'm just looking at the participants. We have about 119 participants. Of course, a half a dozen or so are members of the staff. So I'm really, really pleased. I think the mayor and the chairman would say the same. Really pleased with with the engagement this evening. Again, if you want to ask a question, again, tonight really is about us answering your questions or addressing your concerns. Please just hit that participant button and then go over and hit the raise hand button and we'll get to your question. One other thing I just wanted to mention was we're currently engaged in what we call a community voice survey. So we mailed this community voice survey to about 70,000 households throughout the district. I ask a series of questions. There are a total of 15 questions. All of those questions are issues that we are currently dealing with in the state legislature. Now, I just want to make a point, if I may. I get criticized often about the surveys and the surveys being skewed, to people who only have a conservative mindset. And I would just respectfully disagree with that assessment. These 15 issues that we've put in the community voice survey are actual issues that I will have to make a decision about whether I'm going to support or not support. And while I may have my own personal beliefs on any one of those issues, it is important that I understand where the people that I represent are on those issues. So, and we mail these surveys and we promote these surveys on our social media platforms to everyone, Republicans and Democrats alike. I say all the time, I may have an R next to my name, but I proudly represent the Democrats in my district as well. So, I don't believe that they are skewed one way or the other. I just think it's important that I remind everybody that these are actual issues that we're dealing with during this legislative session. So, Emmanuel, I'm going to turn it over to you. I see we have a couple of hands raised, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the chat box. I haven't looked at that, but if you'd be so kind, could we call on Timothy Comfort first, please?
Okay, Timothy, I just asked to unmute you, so you should be able to ask your question.
It's not a question, it's a commentary. You were very specific as to what the shortfall was in the budget. You indicated how the MTA was mismanaged. You talked about if we don't get that money, we're gonna see raise in taxes. Why don't we see cuts in budgets? Why don't we reduce the overall government? And I ask myself, if I look at it, one of the simplest things to do is, even when any of the local governments that have workers, the last 3 years, they work their tail off. They take every day they can, work overtime, and they're given it by their own supervisors. And then they take and do their retirement rate based on that. We read about it all the time, where some people are making $120,000 in their base pay, and they're earning $300,000 in their retirement pay. All right. So I'm asking, you can't raise taxes. Why? Because you already have an exodus from New York, be it New York City or upstate New York. There's already an exodus. You can't raise taxes. You have to reduce taxes and make this a more friendly place to do business in. But, they're talking about raising the taxes on the stock exchange, and the stock exchange moves. Okay. More people gone. We lost Amazon because of our brilliance in the Democratic Party. More revenue gone. So I'm going to tell you that you're very analytical. You told me how you were working for this and working for that. But the point is, you can't raise taxes, cut budgets, cut programs. If that's what we can afford, that's what we can afford. But you're leaving the lesser group of us. I don't mean lesser in terms of income. I mean lesser people to bear the burden of what has been brought together in terms of a government that just paid everybody what they wanted and then some. Used to be when you worked for the government, you got minimal pay, but you got great benefits. Now you get great benefits, greater benefits, and not bad pay either. So I'm just saying to you, how do you intend to cut the budget, not raise the pay on the taxpayers that remain? Why don't I just sell my house and go somewhere else? It's certainly easier than paying the tax. I have friends in other states who pay $1,500, $2,400 for their whole tax base on their house. Those of us that remain here, I've seen $24,000, $12,000, $11,000. Tell me why. when we should be cutting the budget. Don't focus on raising the money, cut the budget. And do the same in the state. That's it.
So I think, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And you know what, I did a poor job articulating my position, I think, and you've reminded me of a couple of things. So I appreciate that. You can't balance a budget on the back of the taxpayer. You can't. There's a reason why, to your point, Tim, we have seen such a great deal of out-migration, right? Some would have you believe that it's because of the weather. While I agree it's cold in New York, especially today in the southern tier with all the snow we had, it is because New York is unaffordable. It's really that simple. People are leaving, to your point, for more affordable states and more opportunity. I'll give you a perfect example. I told you, a $15 billion deficit. The governor still plans on spending $8 billion in economic development projects this year. Now, that just doesn't make any sense to me, right? You talk about cut budgets. Here's a great place to start. Suspend the economic development programs. These are programs like, you know, air trams across fairgrounds, new airports. They're important. They're good projects when the time is right. But clearly the time is not right because we're faced with this deficit. So, you know, if we got half the money from the federal government, and I've been clear about this, I don't know how the chairman and the mayor feel, but I do believe because of the global pandemic, the federal government has a role to play here, right? No different than if a tornado came through or a hurricane came through. The federal government, there'd be an emergency declaration and the federal government would help. This is a global pandemic that has affected our nation. I don't think that the federal government should bail states out for fiscally mismanaging themselves. But at the end of the day, suspend a program like that until you can get your feet underneath you and start being more fiscally responsible. Chairman or Mayor, any thoughts?
Yeah, Senator, I absolutely agree with you. And I would say that, you know, we do cut taxes at the county. We have for the last couple of years. I mean, we all understand that that we're working uphill in a lot of ways. I mean, New York State has a tendency to push unfunded mandates down to the localities. It's been doing it for years, and that's where the vast majority of our budget goes to. So we have a $400 million budget, well over 2/3 of which are mandated by the state. So, you know, there's certain things that we have control over. There's certain things that we don't have control over. I think the senator's been an excellent advocate, not only in trying to help us get, you know, funding for projects when we need funding for projects, but certainly trying to get us latitude when we can, and has helped put us in a position where we can do that. But I mean, we went through similar situation not that long ago when we restored the sales tax back to the municipalities. You know, it wasn't the easiest thing to do for the county, but we did it because it was the right thing to do, because the previous administration group had taken money away from the municipalities to try and balance their budget on their backs. And you see that right now with the state. And I mean, thank God we have people like Senator Akshar and Rich David, for that matter, who are advocating across the state for the localities, because if we didn't, we would be in much more trouble than we are currently. But you know, Mayor, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that as well.
Yeah, you know, just very quickly, I could not agree more with the comment on taxes. In Binghamton, we've lowered our residential taxes for the last 5 years, our commercial taxes the last 6 years, because we're on a 2-tier system in the city of Binghamton. In the pandemic, you know, hiring freeze, furloughs, working with our unions to give back, concessions, cuts, absolutely. And, you know, one of the problems or the concerns with the state is that, you know, the state has continued to raise taxes during good times. And now in bad times, they're trying to say, well, this is why we need to do it. But you just can't continue to have that only go up and spend and spend and spend, because as Tim said, it causes an exodus. New York went from the 3rd most populated state to the 4th, right? And the governor attributed it because of the weather, right? So you have a shrinking tax base, which means the people that here continue to pay more. And not only are they, you know, taking your foot off the accelerator, which is what should happen, but it's the exact opposite. It's pushing it all the way to the ground and coming up with more taxes, right? And you're going to push Wall Street out, and then you're really going to see the state continue a rapid escalation. But yeah, it's about we have to deal with elected officials on the front lines have to deal with this issue all the time. You got to pass a balanced budget, and you can't do it by solely raising taxes. And the reality here is, when we say that we're advocating for state and federal monies, we're advocating for our fair share, because the state has this money that it allocates to municipalities, and we don't want the governor to withhold it and keep it while he gets all of this money from the state. He needs to distribute that money to the localities, and the federal government, they are going to distribute that money. It shouldn't be, the municipalities shouldn't be a political football, because our services are essential services. That's bipartisan issues, with public safety and infrastructure, et cetera. But you're right about the mindset needing to change. And I think that was the crux of what you were trying to say.
Chuck, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment. I just want to remind everybody, there's some questions in the chat column. Just hit the participant button. And then you'll see it says invite, mute me, and raise hand. Just click the raise hand button, and then the blue hand will come up, and we'll be able to get to your question. Tim, just in terms of what we were talking about, I'll give you another example. Speaker Hasty, Speaker of the New York State Assembly, when talking about raising revenues, they call them revenue enhancers. They're talking about raising taxes. And the deficit being at 15 billion, he was saying that we should be raising more money than that. Not just raise revenues to raise the 15 billion that we need for the deficit. Let's raise as much revenue as we possibly can to keep spending. I mean, this is how disconnected some people in Albany are in terms of what our priorities should be. I can tell you one thing, that with a mentality like that, there is no self-reflecting. So with that, Manuel, can we take Mr. Jenkins' question? Is Manny with me?
There, you got me?
Yeah, I got you, Mr. Jenkins.
Okay. I live in Endicott. Been here for going on 30 years. Have my own house, have some rental property. I haven't seen taxes go down. I can't tell you how long. One thing I don't understand is, because I see the taxes going up every year, and especially with this COVID-19 going on, we're supposed to be able to get people out of work, get kids not going to school, yet we still have to pay our taxes. School taxes, we're paying school taxes that went up again this year. I just paid them for both my properties, and the kids aren't even going to school. What are we paying taxes for? I voted for you. I like what you've been doing, but I got a problem. I mean, I do not think that Cuomo needs to be in office any longer. He needs to go. He's the biggest part of the reason why New York's in trouble anyway. Him and Chuck Schumer, not to mention AOC, who got rid of Amazon. So that's my thought on it.
Listen, I appreciate your comment on the tax issue. Obviously, we're talking a lot about property taxes, but of course, we recognize and understand that school taxes are just as big a part in people's bills. Oftentimes, I see Camille Link is with us. She's in the real estate industry. She could tell you this better than I can. Many people can, afford a principal and interest payment when they're buying a home, but they can't pay both the principal interest and the property taxes, which of course school taxes are associated with that. I guess the only other thing I would say is I understand your frustration, and I just want you to know that we are in fact fighting as best we can, given the current circumstances that we're faced with, to do the best we possibly can. So obviously we're fighting against those taxes, and at the local level, I think you heard both the chairman and the mayor say that they have worked very hard in a bipartisan way to lower taxes. I can't speak to what is happening specifically in Endicott. The mayor is not there, but I can say with a great deal of certainty that both Dan and Rich have fought very hard to lower taxes at the county level and at the city level. Any
Senator,
thoughts?
if
Yeah,
I
of
can,
course.
I
Yeah.
just, I think that's one of the points that, that probably just needs some extra time on it. When we say that we've cut taxes, we understand that the county tax bill is only a portion of what you're actually seeing. So when everybody gets their total taxes that they're paying on property, it combines the school, the county, and in a lot of cases, the town or the village taxes as well. So while we may wind up cutting in one place, it's entirely possible that the school district is increasing, or one of the other municipalities has a slight increase on it. We've worked at the county for the last 3 years in particular, and I mean, the entire time that I've been in the legislature, we've held it to less than 0.5% over the course of the 10 years that I've been in there. But the last 3 years in particular, we've worked with the administration, and the good part about that is that, you know, we're different parties, but we're working together. We're trying to do what we can to make sure that we can deliver a budget and a tax rate that's been able to be lowered for the last 3 years. And is it enough? No. I mean, we'd all cut more if we could, but we're trying to make that balance of things that we need to provide, the essential services that we need to provide, in addition to trying to make it reasonable for people to be able to own a home and obviously and continue to operate in this community. We're sensitive to it. We certainly are. And, you know, we'll continue to keep looking at it. I know the mayor works very hard at it every year. And yeah, I work closely with both the senator and the mayor on several issues. And I think this is one of those issues where I think all of us are sympathetic to it. We certainly would like to see that moniker of having one of the highest tax communities in the country go away. And I mean, we're working towards it. We certainly hear you.
I would just add that if you live in the city of Binghamton, it's very similar, where your city portion of the bill is just under 50%. Your school taxes from the Binghamton School District are just under 50%, and then the county is the remaining, 6 to 8%. So, the county and city could go down, but if the school district goes up, it kind of, cancels or negates that. So we do the best we can with what we have, within our control. Without question, taxes are, a
School
top
taxes are the worst.
The what? I don't know. I thought I heard a comment, but
Just lost you.
In the city of Binghamton, for example, one of the things that made it challenging is, during the 8 years, before I came into office, our taxes went up 52%, and which was a massive, skyrocketing. And now they've been going down. But, in the city of Binghamton, they're going down every year, and we've made a commitment to continuing to do that. But it's all three of those things added up that makes your overall tax bill. So I could lower taxes 2-3%, which we've done in some years. But if someone else increases them, it negates that. So your overall tax bill, you may see a fluctuation, but you have to look at it and see where are all these changes coming from.
The other point I would add is just we're talking about property taxes, and both the mayor and the chairman know this. I carry a bill that would have the state take over the local share of Medicaid. And in Broome County, it eats up nearly 60% of the budget. Does it seem accurate, Chairman?
Yeah, it would be a substantial savings. I mean, you're talking, if we had the state pick up that portion, we'd wind up easily being able to pass a double-digit tax cut.
And so we do the math on this statewide. Outside the 5 boroughs, it would cost the state of New York about $2.3 billion. If you included the 5 boroughs in the city of New York, it would cost a little south of $8 billion. It's a lot of money, right? So the first question you ask yourself is, where are you going to get the money? But when you do the math statewide, you could save people between 20 and 30% on their property taxes. To Chuck's point, not school taxes, but your county and local taxes. I've yet to meet one person in my travels throughout this district that wouldn't like to see a 30% reduction in their property taxes. I don't care if they're a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal, a conservative. Everyone wants to pay less in taxes and stay here and not leave, to Tim's point. You're right, it's a lot of money. And I keep going back to this pot, this $8 billion pot of economic development money. I would much rather rather than put a new facade on the LaGuardia Airport, I would much rather pass along a 20 or 30% savings to the constituency in their property taxes. Let's take another question if we can. There's a lot of hands raised now. I think that's a great thing, but I want to get to as many people as we possibly can. George Schambach. Manny, can you unmute George for me, please?
Yes, George, I just asked you to unmute. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question, that would be great.
Good evening. Good evening, Senator.
Hi, George.
I have a real issue with the MTA. We finance that not only through our tax money, but through taxes on our gasoline. And it really annoys me that we're going to put that kind of money into the MTA. And, you know, they make this statement constantly that we need to learn how to use mass transit. Well, as far as I know, unless I'm missing it in the morning, there's no bus that runs from my house to Binghamton. So now maybe I don't get up early enough or come home late enough at night. But the point is, gasoline prices have gone up. Everybody's noticed that. They're up 20, 30. I was in Albany the other day. They're up 40 cents. That is a direct increase to us, the people that commute to work every day. If MTA can't make it on their rates, why don't they raise the rates? Why do they have to continue to allow people to ride buses for ridiculously low rates, ride the subway, give them train tickets to go back and forth in and out of Long Island and up the Hudson River for next to nothing? What is wrong with raising those rates?
Well, if it's the question of raising rates, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I think they're so grossly mismanaged that I don't think just raising rates are ever going to get them out of the hole that they're in. Now, I'm not suggesting that we keep dumping billions and billions of dollars into a bottomless pit, which the MTA currently seems to be. But we have to find some solution to that, because that's in fact what we're currently doing.
Well,
go ahead.
My feelings is very simple. Okay, if you can't make it, the government there's always these people running around making statements. The government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. Well, you know what? The MTA is a loser. Let it lose. Let it go out of business. Let private industry take that service over. Get the rates that they need to operate it, and stop subsidizing it. I think that would be an incredible start to the budget. But anyway, so that being said, I won't go on to my other issues I have, but I just think, Fred, that's something that needs to be looked at very seriously. And I know even in the good times, okay, when you had the power in the Senate, okay, when you had a majority in the Senate, you still weren't going to get that. There's too much influence out of New York City. But sooner or later, that thing's either got to fail, sink, or become profitable. And it shouldn't be done profitable on our backs. So, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And as you well know, you can call anytime, and I'm happy to have a sidebar conversation with you on any of your issues. I'm just looking at these numbers as proposed by the executive in terms of transportation funding. He funds the DOT at $5.9 billion, and he funds the MTA at $10.3 billion. So just to show the disparity there in relation to those dollars. Emmanuel, please unmute Michael Capelli, please. And Emmanuel, could you please? Some people are writing in the chat section. They can't find the raise hand button. Maybe I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. Could you do me a favor and explain it one more time, just so I don't miss anybody?
Sure, it is under the reactions button. It should be right there at the bottom of your screen. If not, please type your question in the chat, and we can call on you from there. But that is where I'm seeing the button. It seems like most people aren't having an issue, but if you are, I mean, we believe you. But please type your question in the chat, and we'll try to get to it.
And then I'm seeing it under the participants button. If you click that on the right side of your screen, you'll see the raised hand button. So Michael Capelli, I see that you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, yes, it's Michael and Grace.
Hi, Grace.
So my questions regarding voter election integrity, considering we had the issue with this last election regarding Brindisi and Claudia Tenney, and there were some issues, it had to go to court. And I know I had an issue myself. When I went to vote, my ballot didn't actually go through the machine. So they had to take it from me and put it in the insert by key. So I never really saw it go in, or I never really saw the counter advance. I just have to trust that it went through. And then the other issue is when I went in, there was a lady training another gentleman as they logged me in, and I signed on the computer, but she told the gentleman that they're not allowed to ask for ID. So I'm questioning why that would be. And I guess, is there any talks of what we could do in the state to better the voting, more secure?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to give you a very candid response to that question because of the things that we've seen in the state legislature currently, even in this legislative session. We're actually going in the wrong direction. My friends on the other side of the aisle in both houses are making it easier for anyone to vote. And I completely want to see as much participation as you possibly can. But I want to make sure that every legal vote is counted. And my fear is that they're structuring the system in which you start to raise question, right? Like you are doing tonight on this town hall meeting. I can tell you, and I may ask the chairman here to discuss this because he has a long history at the Board of Elections, but I'm pleased to say that in the 22nd congressional race, none of the issues in that race were born from this county. That our Board of Elections did a very good job in terms of processing ballots, getting the numbers and the votes to where they belonged, especially when the judge was involved. So we don't have voter ID in this state. And again, if I'm being incredibly candid with you, that's never going to happen with the folks that are currently in charge of the state legislature. But Chairman, any thoughts in terms of just election security?
Yeah, I do. So the process that you're describing with the ballot being slid in on the side is actually default, just in case there's their paper ballots are printed. There's always a possibility that the barcode reader itself that's on these things will not read it for one reason or another. All those ballots are then handled and they have a bypass, which it sounds like that's what they did, and they slid it in the machine so it was secured, which is the primary concern there. All of those ballots are taken back to the Broome County Board of Elections where they're recanvassed and counted again anyway. So they're double checking each of the districts based on the amount that they have in there. So you would have signed in on the polls. They would have had a way to be able to go back and count to make sure that the ballots were actually counted. Where they have errors on it, they'd go back and they would double check. So that I feel fairly confident that you could rest assured that if you went and voted, that your ballot's actually going to be counted. It may not have been counted in the manner or the way that it probably should have been on election day, but when they take it back in and they canvass it, they will. As for voter ID, I think the senator hit on this as well. The issue right now with the state is that it depends on where you focus. Is it on registration, or is it on securing the elections? Because those two are not always in they don't always work in tandem, right? So the state, at least the majority caucus, has decided that the registration takes precedent over everything else. And quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why you saw the problems in the election for the congressional seat, because the ballots that were in question were sent over as transmittals from one of the other agencies. In this case, I believe it was the DMV, and the board is required to process them, and then they go back and they canvass it, or they count it against the individuals that voted by either with affidavit ballot or other methods on it, but they were entitled to vote. And the problem is that the boards usually have cutoff dates that allow them the time to make sure that the registrations are processed. This year they got squeezed, and they really didn't have enough time in a lot of those instances to try and make sure that they're registered. In other instances, they've had more time to make sure that all the registrations were processed. This year, because of the way the registrations work, they basically had a glut of them, and your guess is as good as mine where they came from. But the reality is that they had this large influx before the election, and the boards were not well equipped to handle it. In another year, when they've gone through this once, they'll be staffed up properly to help address that. As for the election integrity, I think in some ways in New York State, it's gotten a bad rap. It's very difficult to tamper with the election system in New York State, and there's a rigorous process, with just like there is with everything in New York State, to go through for ballot security and for the printers that are allowed to even print the ballots in New York State, and they have to be checked. And there's a process that they go through to certify and ensure that the machines are counting properly on it. It's just, there's so many different places where they would catch failure points that I think that, overall, I think the places where you wind up having issues is usually in the human side. It's not on the technical side on this. And I think they need to get better. I mean, I think that Oneida was a good example of what can happen when people fail the system rather than the technology fail the system. And it's something that we all have to be concerned with. But the senator's right. Broome County did a good job, and they're diligent about their staffing model. They're diligent about trying to get things done as quickly as they possibly can, and they're very responsive to changes that come through. And but you can see what happens when boards aren't, when they're used to doing things a certain way, and they're too rigid to try to accommodate. When those changes came in, and they were coming in fast and furious, as I think everybody saw last year, they passed a lot of different changes when it came to registration that I think boards were trying to figure out how to implement. I think that that's where we had a lot of the problems. But I think unless there are more sweeping changes as we get closer to the elections and go through them a couple of times, we'll see the errors or the concerns over that. We'll see those diminish. At least I believe we will, based on this process.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to, I'm going to take one question from the chat box. It's from Kathy Keuchel. She's asking about high-speed internet. I just want to address this because it's an important issue. Kathy, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially. Emmanuel, can we do this? Can you unmute Kathy? Maybe then she could share the question specifically with everybody. And then Benet, I'm going to get to you next, okay? I'm coming your way.
Absolutely. Just give me one moment.
Thank you.
All right, Kathy, I've asked to unmute you.
Yep.
You should be on.
Hello, Senator. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm sorry I can't find the raise hand.
It's okay.
Must be one of the few ones that's just struggling. So my question was, with everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people working from home and many school children being educated from home, we have a need for high-speed internet. I live in the town of Binghamton. We only have Spectrum, or what was Time Warner, available to us. And to go from basic internet to high-speed internet is a crazy amount of money. The other part of my question was cell phone service. Where I live, again, there's barely 1 bar of service, and I only get that 1 bar if I hang out the bathroom window and tilt my body just so. So what plans does Broome County have to improve our infrastructure to give us more high-speed internet options, more cell phone service? What can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm just going to address it from the state level, and then I'll ask the mayor and the chairman to opine on this issue. So I'll start here. I was incredibly disappointed about 3 weeks ago when the governor used a pocket veto to veto the broadband study. And the legislature last year passed a bill that would have required the Public Service Commission to actually map out all of people's access right throughout the state. So a couple of years ago, they commissioned, a broadband commission, if you will, and they suggested that, not being rude, I want to look at the numbers so I don't misrepresent them. They had suggested that the testifiers at the hearing suggested that people, New Yorkers, 99.9% of them had access to high-speed internet. Now, I don't know what reality or what world they're living in.
Not ours.
Right, not ours. There are so many people that are in your situation. I'm also looking at something else, top issues that my team is dealing with. And the second issue is broadband access that we're dealing with on a daily basis. We've been successful in some instances working with our partners to help people, but I just want to give you a number. So number one, I'm very disappointed that the governor decided not to allow the Public Service Commission to do this mapping. I think I understand why he didn't do it. So we have spent to date, between state dollars, federal dollars, and private partnerships, we've spent $722 million for people to have access to broadband. In my humble opinion, we've wasted that money because there is no way in hell 99.9% of New Yorkers have access to that. I would suggest that there are many, many people, probably the plurality of people that are in your situation. So the other thing I would mention, something that we're fighting, is last year in the budget, they passed a new tax. And this tax was, if a company was to install internet lines or fiber optic lines on state property, they had to pay a significant tax to do that if they were using state right-of-ways. And I have heard, I was out in Hancock the other day to have a meeting, and the owner of Hancock Telephone told me, I have suspended 3 projects to get people in the easternmost part of my district access to broadband and telephone services because I can't make it work with these new taxes that they've levied. So those are a few of the things that we're working on. I mean, I think we recognize that people don't have access as you describe because there's so much bureaucracy in the systems that we're trying to break through some of that. But I would ask the chairman and the mayor maybe to address this issue from both the county and the city level, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. Thank you, Senator. So there is an effort right now that's studying the broadband issue. And first I'll tell you, as a dad with an 8-year-old that's home 3 days out of the week, trying to deal with school and the new requirements for online distance learning, it's one of those things that it's on my mind. I think it's on everybody's mind, and it certainly wasn't as much in the forefront as it is right now. But there's a collaborative approach to study broadband and to try and increase the amount of broadband that we have in this area. It's with Southern Tier 8. So it used to be the Southern Tier Regional Planning Board. And if you go to Southern Tier 8, that's just the number 8.org. There's a study on there right now, and they are working through this issue. They realize its importance. It's a barrier for education. It's a barrier for businesses. It's one of those things that should have been addressed years ago. And I think that the pandemic basically just brought it to the forefront and put all the attention on it. I do think that it's a complicated problem because we went through this when we were putting in fiber lines in the county a few years ago, and we were talking about the different spurs that you have and how to make the economics of this work. But this is one of those things where, if the state systematically approached this and worked with municipal leaders, whether it's at the county level, the town level, and worked out a plan, and it was coordinated, we'd certainly be able to do a much better job of this. What you see right now is like the Southern Tier 8, although it's great, it's Broome and Chenango and Portland County and Delaware counties all kind of banding together to try and attack the issue regionally. And what you really need is some leadership from the governor's office on this issue. And you heard some of the funding that the senator was talking about for some of these projects that are in New York City. I mean, those types of funds would be transformative across the state in terms of providing broadband access to all of New York State, and it just needs to be a priority from that perspective. But there are things going on right now, and I would encourage you to take a look at the study that's going on there, and you certainly can contact our office. We can provide you with additional information, and we're certainly working to do everything we can to increase it. We know it's a problem.
Thank you.
I would just very briefly add, if I could, that the city of Binghamton is participating, with the county in the initiative or plan that Chairman Reynolds just outlined. I will say that one thing that this pandemic has shown us, regardless of where you live, there are deficiencies everywhere, even within, areas where the city of Binghamton, for example, where some areas are good and some areas there are deficiencies. And the only other thing I would add is that the city of Binghamton also works with Spectrum directly. They have to have what's called a franchise agreement, which is basically permission from any municipality with which they operate in to operate. And sometimes as part of the negotiations of those process, you're able to ask for and address certain things. And the internet and broadband is one of the things that we're currently talking to Spectrum about as we look to renew our cable franchise agreement.
So I see that my thanks to Aaron, he put the link to the Southern Tier 8 study in the chat section. So Aaron, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it very much. Emmanuel, if you'd be so kind, can we move over to Benet, please?
Okay, Benet, if you just unmute yourself, we'd love to take your question, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Hello, Senator.
How are you?
Okay. Just, I think you and the mayor hear enough complaints. I just have couple of things just to say to you. I'm just so happy that you continue to work with the other parties. I commend you and the mayor on what you do with that. It's the only way we're going to get ourselves out of some of these pits if we work together. It's just the only way. So I commend you for that. I also want to let you know there were at least 3 instances, unfortunately, within the pandemic. On my vacation, I went for a pedicure and wound up around a person that was positive, and I was on vacation. So the health department in Broome County has worked awesome. They have been great. They really have worked so good as far as getting back to people and contact tracing and everything. It's just been great. So you need to know that. One of the questions I also wanted to make was in regard to the police department last year during the protest, which was in our area on the west side. They were awesome also. It was wonderful the way they conducted themselves, the way they, things got handled and how they worked with the community. I just have to be able to say that to you, that it was wonderful. If no one else is saying it to you, I'm saying it, that the police department was awesome, And I did want to ask a question on this. Are they doing any cuts? Hopefully not. And are they hiring for the police department for Broome County?
I am going to, number one, allow me to thank you for raising all of those issues, but also the issue around law enforcement. Benet, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I think we have not only a working relationship, but I would describe it as a good friendship.
Yes.
And, I happen to believe at the very root of my core that our community and the members of law enforcement have a good relationship. We're lucky in this community in that we didn't see, even in a trying time as we found ourselves throughout this nation, with all of the uprising, all of the civil unrest, all of the divisiveness, we didn't see violence here in this community. And I think that speaks volumes. I will say this, I feel comfortable saying this, that as a former member of law enforcement, we can always do better. We can always do better. And we should always strive to do better. I happen to be watching a Netflix program about the 14th Amendment. If you haven't watched that, I would encourage everybody to do that. But in the Scott v. Sanford decision, Roger Taney was a Supreme Court justice, and his family and Dred Scott's family, so many years later, came together as one and showed this entire, not only this entire nation, but the entire world, that as divisive an issue as that was, that particular decision, they found a way to come together and work together. And I believe at my very core that we can do that too. And even if we think that things are good, we should always strive to do better. So with that, I'll ask the chairman to give us an update, a public safety update, as well as the mayor, if you'd be so kind.
Thank you, Senator. I would like to say, first and foremost, I appreciate the kind words about the health department. Rebecca Kaufman is on this call as well, and I don't think they get enough attention for all the fine work that they've done over the last year. They really have gone above and beyond, and a lot of people are learning how to handle this on the fly, and they're getting a lot of information thrown at them, and they've just done a tremendous job. And I'm so proud of all the work that they've done for the residents of our county, and certainly the work that she's done leading them as well. And as for bipartisanship, the county executive and I are from different parties, but we get along extremely well. We talk, fairly regularly, several times a week usually, and we've worked together for the last several years to try and help keep the county moving forward. And as for the law enforcement in particular, there aren't any reductions in any of the sheriff's department staff for road patrol or anything of that nature at this point. I know it's a challenge to hire. They are working on reforms for law enforcement that were mandated by the governor. So we're working through that process. You'll see a resolution that's coming up this month on that in particular. And I believe the gentleman, Mr. Williams, who is here, Pastor Williams, was part of that as well. And I think there are others probably that are on the call as well, or on this meeting as well, that were also part of it. And we're all looking to try and move forward together and certainly try to do the best job that we can. But there are no reductions that are planned that I'm aware of. Mayor, I don't know if you want to add as well.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Benet, for your kind words. I appreciate it. I know the chairman, the senator, does as well. To answer your question, there are no reductions in police in the city of Binghamton. In fact, we currently have some vacancies now that we are working on filling. And one of the challenges right now is that we've seen over the course of the last several years, the number of people who are signing up to take the police exam has dropped every year on a regular basis. I do want to echo the point, though, that we always believe that we can do better. And there are several positive suggestions of things that have come up that we're either already doing, or if we're not doing, we're interested in doing. I'll just give you one specific example. I know that I've had this conversation with the senator too. There's a lot of individuals who are talking about increasing resources for the police departments or law enforcement departments in dealing with people with substance abuse or mental health crises.
Yes.
And I support that. And we're actually working with the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier right now. It just doesn't need to be one or the other. If it's an important resource, then we should be making positive investments that are good for the community, because crime changes and evolves. Law enforcement strategies change and evolve, and you need to be proactive and analyzing data and criminal trends and investing in resources to keep up. And so that's what we've been doing. And I think, a lot of people know that in Binghamton, my predecessor actually cut the police department significantly and made less resources available, and it had a very negative impact on crime in the city of Binghamton, an impact we're still dealing with today. So just because, we're adding officers, we don't think that's necessarily the silver bullet. We also have to get at what are some of the root causes of crime as well, and address those in a very constructive, positive way with the community.
That's great. That's great. But at least it's done across the board, and that working together is what does it. Thank you.
One other thing I would add, Benet, is that, and again, I think you know me well enough, but since I've been in this position, I regularly meet with people who my position on an issue may be, diametrically opposite, right, of that person. I do so because just because I have my own personal beliefs in a certain matter, right? Maybe I just don't understand how that other person or that group views a particular issue, right? Or how they've been impacted by that particular issue. Maybe I've never thought about it because I haven't walked a mile in their shoes, right? And I just think it's incredibly important for all of us. It's incumbent upon us as leaders in this community to do just that, is to have those conversations, and to the mayor's point and chairman's point, find common ground, right? And move this community forward in a positive direction. At the end of the day, we all live here. It doesn't matter what our political persuasion is, right? We all want the same things. For people who are hungry, we want to feed them, right? People who don't have clothes on their back, we want to put clothes on their back. People who aren't safe, who have a mental health issue, we want to take care of their issues. So that's not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It's a human being.
Human issue.
Human
Exactly.
issue. It's about being a good neighbor. So.
It is.
Thank you, Benet,
You're
for
welcome.
all of those words. Emmanuel, can we move to Julie, please? Julie Netherton. Everyone, I'm going to get to your questions. Okay, I'm just kind of going down the line as I see them. So if somebody had asked the question before somebody else, I apologize. I'm just kind of calling them as I see them. So, Manny?
Julie, if you could just please unmute yourself, you should be able to. Might have to come back to Julie.
Okay, no problem. How about Susan? Julie, are you there? Oops. Let's try one more time, Emmanuel, please.
Sure. Hello, Julie.
Hello.
Yep. Okay, let's go to Susan Christensen, please.
All right, Susan.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Akshar, for hosting these town hall meetings. I'm a parent of 2 Vestal Central School District children, and our kids have the least amount of in-person days, if not all, in all the districts in our area. There are many, parents in our area in Vestal that are upset with the Board of Education. They're not talking to the parents about their plan of why they're only offering our kids 2 days when other districts in our area are offering 4 or if not 5 days of in-person learning. My kids' schooling and learning has not been sufficient. At the elementary school level, they're offered 2 Zoom classes that are 20 minutes of in-person learning a day. And that's it at the elementary school level. So my question to you is there anything that can be looked at the state level to encourage schools to open? And what can you do to help these kids to get back to school, seeing that Vestal is the only district in the county in our area not even looking at going back to school more than 2 days a week?
Well, number one, I'm happy to have those conversations with those, either on the Board of Education or the superintendent there on your behalf. I can just give you, while I'm not sure we've ever met each other, I am incredibly candid when it comes to many issues. But I think here, I'm going to give you my assessment. The governor, when it came to making a decision about schooling, I think made a very fatal error in that I don't necessarily think that government should always make decisions, right? Because they don't always make decisions that are in our best interest. But what happened here as it pertains to public education is that, from my perspective, the governor did not want to deal with the teachers union. And they are very, very powerful in the state of New York. So the governor allowed every school as an individual to make their own plan. Right. So what that has done is created exactly what you described, right? Vestal is doing one thing, Shenango Forks is doing a different thing, Binghamton is doing a separate thing, and it's really creating mass confusion. I think the numbers are clear. I think that we can, in fact, get our children back into school, and we can do that in a very safe manner. But the way that it's currently structured, we've given all of this decision to be made at a very, I guess, in a very micro sense, right? And it is creating a lot of issues. But I'm happy to take that concern or that message to the president of the Board of Education and the superintendent, and ensure that your voice is being heard if you feel that it's not being heard in terms of your advocacy or a group of people. I would ask if you're amenable to it, maybe we could have a sidebar conversation tomorrow and just kind of drill down into the issue a little bit more.
I think that would be great. Unlike yourself, our Board of Education won't meet with us. So open forums like this, that's why I really thank you for meeting with the public, because our Board of Education hasn't met with the public and the parents. So I think that would be great. And there's some other parents that are on the town hall tonight that would appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm committed to doing this. Benji, please do me a favor and just put our, well, you know what, it's there, but at the end, we're going to share our contact information.
Okay.
But tomorrow, if you'd be so kind, reach out to Benji in my staff, and we'll set up another a sidebar, a Zoom conversation about this particular issue. Okay.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Senator, if you
Yes.
could, that's our area too, or my area too in particular, and I'd be happy to be involved on that. I have had some conversations with some of the parents, one of which I can see on tonight, and I actually have had some conversations with the school superintendent as well. But I'm in the same boat. My daughter's going 2 days a week, and she's in 2nd grade, and I totally understand where they're coming from.
Thank you, Chairman. My apologies for overlooking that, but I think we're better served if we can address the issue collectively together. So we'll set that up with you, and we'll start tomorrow. Okay. Let's go to Michael Harrison, if you'd be so kind, Emmanuel.
Hi, Michael, if you could just hit unmute, we'd love to take your question. Michael, there should be a prompt that allows you to unmute yourself.
You hear me now?
Perfect.
I guess you do.
There's a lot of, Michael, if I may, there's a lot of feedback. I'm not sure what the situation is.
All right, 1 sec. Oh, I have my phone on it.
Yeah, could you maybe, oh, and your computer?
Yeah, I got the computer in.
Okay, maybe shut one of them off.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, great.
All right, hear me? Oh, gosh.
2, 3, and 4 times.
1 second.
No problem. No problem.
Hey, honey, take my phone into the other room. 1 second. Take this to the other room so because it vibrates.
Why don't we just turn it off?
I'm trying to, honey. You know my phone's acting up. I'm trying to. Trying to. All right, just. All right, you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. My question is, okay, I don't know if you're familiar with the big teacher strike in 1978 or 1977 rather, New York teacher strike.
No, I'm not.
Now,
Go
what
ahead.
they did back then was they started fighting because it was through the teachers union too back then, and teachers were on strike for. I was in school during that time. Teachers were on strike for a half a year. I mean, almost a half of the year was already gone, and what the New York said, no more. And they started fighting the union, the student union back then, for the teachers to come back to school because none of the students were learning back then. They had us in the auditorium sitting while the teachers were on strike. And then all the mothers said, no more, you know, and we just stayed home because instead of we weren't getting learned anyhow. The second question I have is these gas prices. Ever since Biden got into office, stopped the pipeline. Gas prices. I do Uber and Lyft and Grubhub, and these gas prices skyrocket. I mean, they just went from 219 all the way to 235 within a day when Biden got into office. A day, and they keep on going up. It's almost $3 a gallon right now, from $2.19. It is. I mean, it's hard. Pretty soon next week it'll be $3 a gallon. But the way it looks right now, these prices are going skyrocket.
Yeah, thank you for your education on, no pun intended, but on the education issue. I was not aware of that. And, you know, let's hope that the new president will, of course, have a willingness to diversify his energy policy. You know, I think obviously that when you see those type of drastic changes in energy policy, you see those increase in gas prices, which obviously affects people just like yourself. So thanks for sharing those two issues. Emmanuel, can we go to Mark Sweet, please? Mr. Sweet.
Hi, Mark. You're unmuted, but I can't seem to hear you.
Okay, let's come back to Mark, if you'd be so kind. Can we unmute Kalina, please? Kalina, you're all set.
Hi, it's Dina. Hi, Senator.
Hi.
Hi, Dan. Thank you all for, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Got a message. Thanks for doing one of these again tonight. I appreciate it. I don't want to belabor the school point at all, but I do just have a question of clarification. And Fred, maybe this is more, you know, I'm one of the parents that Dan was referring to earlier that we've spoken. And I would love to be part of that conversation tomorrow. But I think that this question will maybe pertain to all the schools in the county. There's been a lot of confusion regarding the role of the health department versus the role of the individual school districts versus the role of the state. And there seems to be a lot of kind of the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz, as I like to refer to it, a lot of pointing fingers this way. School districts are saying our hands are tied. We're only following what the county is telling us. We've received in writing from Jason Garner that he says, no, there's absolutely no authority the county health department has over the school districts. We provide guidance only based on guidance from the state. And then the school says, well, the state guidance says this. You know, us as citizens, we can read the guidance and we can see it clearly with our own eyes. We know what it says. And so I'm just wondering if there could be some clarification about, you know, are these guidelines true mandates from the county? Because now we see that sports are, you know, high risk sports are being allowed to be played. And now county comes out and says, now we can have spectators at high risk sports. But here we face as parents still sitting here and my child can't be in a classroom more than 2 days a week, but we can go in and wrestle. We can go in and watch our children wrestle. Now we have amusement parks, bounce places, arcades opening back up in a month, but our children still can't be in a classroom. And, you know, we're in the case in Vestal where we truly are the only district in the county and the larger area not even discussing going more than 2 days. And they've thrown out every excuse, but the main thing they keep saying is the county mandates it. And what we're hearing from the county is that's not true. It's up to the individual district. So can we have some clarification? I know Rebecca's on the call. I'd love to be able to have that be addressed. Thank you.
Yeah, if you, out of respect to Rebecca, because she, you know, I did not have this conversation with her prior to the town hall. I do not want to put her on the spot on this particular issue. I will tell you wholeheartedly that it is not the county's fault. All of the directives in relation to COVID-19 have all of New York. And in fact, they are doing what they're told because this governor with his emergency powers has has really exerted those powers down on other people. When it comes to the school issue, the governor was very clear. It is the school's responsibility ultimately to decide what in fact they do. So the school district, whether it be the Board of Education, whether it be the superintendent, should not be blaming Rebecca Kaufman and the Broome County Health Department. They should be blaming the Broome County Legislature or the county executive. They have the ability to do what they deem appropriate. And with all due respect, the Board of Education, while I haven't spoken to them, they're elected members of the community. They represent you, and they should in fact be listened, which it's clear to me just in these last two conversations between you and Susan, they're not. So again, I'm committed to working with the chairman and all of you to have a collective conversation to see how we move the issue forward. You're right, and see, this is what happened a lot of times in COVID, not just where public education is concerned, that these edicts and these directives are so confusing from the state of New York, and what makes sense one day makes no sense the next day, because to your point, my child can't go to school, but yet he can go to a bounce house facility and or to your point, go watch a basketball game. So I think it's best, I think we're best suited if we had a sidebar conversation together, which we're committed to do it. Chairman?
Senator, if I could, Dina, the one thing I would tell you in particular that the county does have a role in, it's in contact tracing. That is on the county. So when they say that some of these decisions are on or at the county level, the county executive, the letter that he gave you is accurate. It's advisory. We certainly aren't in the business of issuing edicts like the governor is. And the one thing that I would say with the school district there, that was pretty clear to me, and I think the senator hit on this a little bit, was a lot of this is subject to interpretation, right? So one of the things that they had told us is they have space limitations, and because we have to honor the state's social distancing guidelines, we don't have the physical locations, and then there are transportation issues, and we have to keep everybody isolated. So, but it was pretty clear to me after speaking with them that the decision rests with them and how they interpret the state's standard or edict, essentially. And I look forward to having that conversation with you, Senator, and certainly with parents as well.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Very, very welcome. Next question, Emmanuel, Ellie Fletcher.
Okay, Ellie, I think you are on.
I think I am too.
Perfect.
Much to my dismay. I wasn't expecting to be called that quick. I apologize, guys. I'm not going to torture you with my video. My concern is actually, it is relating to the educational system, and I apologize if I misword this. Please forgive me. It's my first town meeting. I'm not like the other parents here where my kids just, they can just rush up and go to school because I have an immune compromising disability. So I'm waiting for the vaccination. That's my own little conspiracy theory, not going to go there. But so yes, I am going to get the vaccine. Still on the waiting list. Okay, fine, not an issue. But while my kids can't go to school, obviously their education is suffering. Is there anything that we can do in the Broome County locations about some sort of tutoring with masking and appropriateness? Because I've been looking for tutors, and quite frankly, it's not really affordable. And my son is already on a special needs program, and obviously they can't do what they need to do during this pandemic. And I'm not blaming the school at all. So please don't think that I'm accusing. I'm saying, is there any solutions we can come up with for this?
Where do your children go to school? I'm sorry, I may have missed that.
Binghamton. I apologize, sir. Forgive me.
Yeah, no, that's okay. The only thing that immediately comes to mind is, Mayor, maybe we could work with Dr. Thompson to see if there's something that we could do for Ms. Fletcher in terms of, getting her children the services that they need if they seem to be falling a little bit behind. Dr. Thompson has always been somebody that I've found incredibly approachable and, is very cognizant of the people's needs. Do you have any thoughts, Mayor?
Absolutely, yes, she is. I worked with her very closely with my oldest son's disabilities as well. And because of her leadership and skills, he is now working in a full-time job. So I will, yes, I give her very much credit.
Senator, if there's a way to get her contact information, I'm actually talking with Dr. Thompson tomorrow on a host of other matters. I'd be happy to have this conversation with her.
Okay, hey, Ellie, at the end of this meeting, we're going to put a number up. As a matter of fact, I see that the mayor's number will be there as well. Would you be so kind and take that number for the mayor's office and have that conversation with him tomorrow, and then he'll broach it with the superintendent.
So it's not a bad thing that I took a screenshot of that number?
No, that's actually
Good idea.
Call or email, and that goes to anybody. Call or email. Happy to help any way I can.
Yeah, that goes for all three of us. So, okay, it is 8:05. I'm going to take three. We're going to take three more questions. Okay, we'll end with Heather. I will explain what to do if I did not get to your question at the end. But let's go to Brenda next, if we can, Emmanuel. Brenda, please.
Hi, this is Brenda.
Hello.
Thank you for this opportunity. We met a long time ago at George F. Johnson Elementary when you came, Senator, and gave a little boy a basketball. So
I remember.
Do you remember that? Yes.
I do, yeah.
Thank you for that. And my question is, could you make any clarification on Governor Cuomo's opening of nursing home visitation? I feel like we are on the visitation merry-go-round, and we're at the mercy of staff at the nursing homes. They have to come and go to their families and grocery shop just like the rest of us, but we seem to be at the mercy of, we hear that they're going to open up, and then the next day I'm getting a phone call from my parents' nursing home that we're back on pause again. And I'm just wondering, if my parents are vaccinated and I'm vaccinated, why is it that we can't visit?
So my understanding is that, and I'm going to apologize on the front end of this because I have not, well, you know what, Mayor, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have not read his updated guidance, but the mayor was just kind enough to put it in the chat section. So I do know that he's relaxing that some. I also do know that, there is clearly, Brenda, an ongoing effort on the part of those in charge of the nursing homes to keep them as safe as possible. So COVID is not being spread, but we have had the opportunity to help many families throughout the course of this pandemic be able to go and visit their loved ones with working with the constituent like yourself and the nursing home in particular. So I'd like the opportunity to be able to do that for you as well. But the mayor has shared that in the chat section, but I am also going to ask you to call our office tomorrow and we will give you our interpretation of those guidance as well. I have a member of my staff who that takes up much of his time is just trying to discern what these, the updated guidance is on a daily basis to help the constituency. So are you okay with that, us taking that approach?
That'd be wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you. Manny, Heather Melanda, please.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having this forum.
I'm great.
My question has nothing to do with schools or taxes. My question is how do we go about enforcing a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in the city of Binghamton?
Senator,
where is the, yeah, please.
Oh, no, that's exactly what I was going to ask. Heather, where specifically are you referring to? And there are many things we can do.
Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, I believe this has come up before, and actually so my deputy Jared Cram, who's on, is actually the head of the traffic safety board for the city of Binghamton. So I know that this has come up. I know it's been the traffic board has taken a look at it. there are, there are things we can do, such as putting an officer there with a speed gun. We actually have a portable unit that measures your speed as you're coming in. It really has to do with enforcement. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're looking to reduce speed in a given area, it has to do with increasing, your police presence and enforcement. Jared, I don't know if you want to add with regards to what the traffic board has done. But I am familiar with this issue, and I know it's something that we're currently discussing right now.
Okay. The reason I keep bringing it up, and I hate to be, a sore thumb about it, is there are 4 townhouses. Everybody in the townhouses is over 65. I'm the youngest. My husband is 78. My next door neighbor is 94. And I'm sure y'all know the name William Lane, the contractor.
Yes.
He is my next door neighbor. The speeds on this road go anywhere from 30 to 60. There are over 50,000 cars that pass in front of our home every 2 weeks. And I've talked to the traffic board every single week, every single month, actually, and I have not had much done, except there was a sign put down below our house saying that you're going X number, this is how fast you're going. But it doesn't do anything for us up here.
Right. So Heather, my understanding in talking with Jared and the traffic board is that this is an issue that they're currently evaluating right now, and there are discussions about increased enforcement at that entranceway to the city. We know that, in fact, the fact that it's made its way to me is an indication that it's something the traffic board takes very seriously, and we're looking at different ways to attack it. But at the end of the day, the number one thing you can do is increased enforcement. And ultimately, I think they've taken a very progressive, steps. And if they don't work, then you go to a more aggressive step. So,
well, that's why I did this, because I was like, I've been doing this for over 1.5 years, and I finally had to reach out to the sheriff's department, and they did the study on the traffic.
Well, good. I appreciate your question.
Jared, any additional thoughts?
Sure. In terms of a next step, and we're doing this as a pilot program there on Pennsylvania Ave in the city of Binghamton, and looking at doing it at other sites too, is that speed radar sign that Heather spoke of actually allows us to gather data about the number of vehicles and the speed that they're going. So our partners at the Binghamton Metropolitan Transit Study, after a couple of months, will be taking that data and analyzing it to see, to what extent we can, if there's things that are happening with traffic that we don't know or cannot know just by placing an officer there for a short period of time.
Thank you for that, Jared. Manny, I'm terribly sorry. I forgot to do the last survey question. Can you put that up quickly before I take the last question, just so we can take one more? So this question is pertains to the nursing home issue. I'm wondering if those in the line support an independent investigation into the governor and his staff's handling of the nursing home residents during the COVID-19 crisis over the past year. If you care to answer it, that'd be great. Just gives me a sense of how the now 91 participants on the call feel about this particular issue. And then, Emmanuel, I'm going to go to, it says user. Now, there is no name, but I'm happy to take user's question.
Hello.
Yep, can you hear me?
Looks like the user is unmuted, but I'm not sure if we can hear them.
Okay. No. Okay, let's go back to Julie Netherton. Can we try Julie one more time? I know she's on the phone, and we had just a slight issue hearing her last time. Julie?
Hello.
Yep.
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
I actually, the lady behind me actually took the words right out of my mouth. It had to do with the schools and the school districts, in particular the Vestal School District. Now, in complete honesty, my husband and I are in the town of Maine. We don't have any children in the school district, but I do have a nephew that is in the Vestal School District. He's a young man who was on high honors right up until COVID. And now, as of this morning, his parents tell me his grades are about a 54. So ultimately what they're saying is he's going to have to repeat the 9th grade. And it's just such a shame that they can't seem to get this connected and get these kids back in school. So I've been listening to the conversation as it's been going on, but really I'm really calling on behalf of my brother and sister-in-law and their frustration and what can they do. But I think what I'm going to have them do is to reach out to your office and communicate to you directly.
Yeah, please do. I think on this or a whole host of issues, and we've seen this happen throughout the pandemic, is that when we all raise our collective voice on whatever the issue is, we see movement, right? We see, whether it be the governor or whether it be a school board or a school superintendent, when everyone is speaking the same language, and you elevate the tempo of the conversation or the volume of the conversation, people tend to listen, and you get the attention of the folks who are making the decisions, and you would hope. I'm again, while I haven't spoken to the school board or the superintendent there, maybe the chairman has. I don't want to speak for them because again, I haven't had that conversation, but you would hope that people would listen, right, to the needs and the concerns of others and make the best decision that they possibly can. Look, I've learned during my tenure in this job that it's impossible to make everybody happy, right? You can't do that.
No.
I did think for the first year I was in this position that my staff will tell you this, like, geez, we're doing something right here. I think everybody's happy. Until you start taking votes or you start making public decisions, they become, then you quickly realize that that is impossible to do. So, all right, let's do this. Dan, or excuse me, Chairman, if you'd be so kind, maybe just offer some closing thoughts, and the mayor, and then to the deputy mayor and to Legislator O'Brien if they wish to say anything. It'd be great.
Thank you so much, Senator, for hosting this tonight, and certainly for allowing myself and the rest of us to participate. We love hearing from all the constituents, and we hear both the frustration from some of the issues, and certainly some places where we need to try and figure out solutions for each of you. And we're certainly working on it. I've taken notes, and I'm looking forward to meeting again with some of the parents of Vestal and working with the senator again as well. And you can rest assured that we're doing everything we can. But the thing that I would encourage you, and I think that forums like this help facilitate that, is please reach out to all of your elected officials if you feel like there's something that we can help you with. That's what we're here for. We're supposed to be responsive, and we're certainly open to any conversation. And I'm always more than willing to try and help. And I know that Legislator O'Brien is as well. And we certainly, all the legislators are, and certainly the other elected officials as well. And if there's something we can help you with, please feel free to reach out. We'd be glad to try and help in any way that we can. And again, I'd just like to say thank you again, Senator, for hosting this. I think these are great. And I certainly love hearing from residents and hearing about some of the issues and the things that are important to each of you.
If I can just add a little to that, all our phone numbers are on the website under the legislative or the government section. So find your legislator. Everyone has a phone number. We have an email. We'd be willing to talk to anybody. And
Well
thank you
said.
for hosting.
It's completely our pleasure. If somebody on the staff would be so kind, just as the mayor's wrapping up, and then as I wrap up, could you put the our phone numbers up in the shared screen? Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mayor?
Sure. Thank you very much, Senator. These sorts of listening sessions, town halls, are very important, especially during the time of COVID. My door is always open, regardless of whether you live in the city of Binghamton or not. Certainly happy to help. Please feel free to email or call. I did want to mention, somebody put a question in the chat box about writing a letter to your Congress representative or your United States senators with regard to the stimulus money. In New York, they're all very supportive. So if you are going to do that, ask them, in addition, to make sure that the money goes directly to the municipalities, to make sure that there's no population caps, so that the smallest village and the largest city get money, and that it's called maintenance of effort. That's actually the actual phrase, maintenance of effort, so that the state can't reduce the amount of state aid that the federal money comes to the city. Because we all know that once bills are, proposed, there's a long, assembly line that they go through where all sorts of things are added and deleted. But the Conference of Mayors is on the front lines, of this issue. So those are the 3 points that we're talking about. So with that, Senator, thanks very much. We appreciate your partnership in the city of Binghamton, as many of the projects we have going on are results of your advocacy to secure funding in a number of different areas. So I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure working with both you, Mayor, and the chairman, and all the county legislators. Again, the county executive, I think, Benet kind of hit on this point, right? That we have this opportunity in which we can all work together regardless of our political persuasion, because we're moving issues forward that are important. I just want to go back to the chat box real quick. Somebody's asking any clarity on the status of removing Cuomo's executive orders. That issue is still ongoing. Again, as I said, since the start of this legislative session, our conference has attempted on 14 separate occasions to do that. And we've been unsuccessful because the New York City Democrats are refusing to join us. I would offer to you, though, that in the last week or so, in learning about the scandal really surrounding the nursing home issue, we have 14 Democrats who have joined us. That brings us to 34 members. A majority of the members of the state Senate, both Republicans and Democrats alike, believe we should remove that. So we're attempting to continue to put as much pressure on the leadership in both the state Senate and in the Assembly to bring the bill to the floor. Just as we've said to Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the majority leader, just bring the bill to the floor and allow us to vote on it. 34 members of the state Senate believe that we should be moving on this issue. We represent, as I said, over 11 million people, and we should in fact be voting on it. So that's the status of where we are. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Chairman, Mayor, County Legislator O'Brien, Deputy Mayor Cram, thank you for joining us. And to everybody who joined us tonight, this has been the best virtual town hall that we've had to date. I think we peaked at about 130 people on the line, which makes me very, very happy. Again, during the outset, I said that when I was elected, I pledged to be open, to be accessible, and to be approachable. And I think this is the way you do that. You open yourself up to your constituency. You take questions unscreened. You let people into a town hall meeting unscreened, and you have a conversation. What I appreciated about this, while not everybody was unmuted at the same time like you would have in a regular town hall meeting, there certainly wasn't fighting. People were respectful of one another's position, and there was a bunch of great chats happening too. So thank you all for allowing me to serve. Yes.
If I could, I didn't realize that he was on earlier, but we also had our councilman from the town of Fenton, Tom Moss, is here as well. I just wanted to make sure that we recognized him as well.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm sorry that I failed to recognize you. I didn't see you, but thank you very much for joining us. So we're going to continue to do these. Emmanuel, the next one is March the 1st. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Again, we'll be having another Broome County virtual town hall with those of us that are on the line, and maybe some more county legislators on March 1st. So of course, if you want to join us, just let the staff know, and we'll certainly give you the link. But I look forward to hearing from everybody again on March 1st. And again, on behalf of my family, I just want to say thank you, and make sure that all of you know how incredibly grateful and honored I am to serve this community. And I promise you that we'll always fight to put our community first. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Senator.
You got
Good
it.
night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a good
Good night,
night.
everybody.